Welcome, dear students. This is week number 9 of the course Programming Fundamentals with Python, and this is the practical session of week number 9. In this week, the programs that we are going to see is actually based on the concept of the nested loops, and we have already covered the nested loop theoretical concepts and how the loops are executed, how the flow of control work inside the nested loops in the theory week. So let us see the practical examples and programs. Our first program is here. The first four lines are example of comments. It actually demonstrate information about the program. For example, this is week 9, and in week number 9 we are actually studying the nested loops. And this is program number 1 of what is the purpose of this program. This is a very simple program which will actually print the values of these loops. I will not give dry run here because I have already explained how actually the execution of the loops occur if there are more than one loops in the theoretical class. So we will be focusing only on the implementation and the output of programs. So let us see. First, I need to save this program. Date the name that I like. I'm going to save it on the desktop. So what is happening here? Actually, we have a loop variable I and its initial value is 0. Check the condition. It is I is less than, remember, value will start from range for mean actually the size of or the number of iterations. So this loop will iterate 4 times starting from 0. There is 0, 1. And remember, this is the outer loop. For one value of the outer loop, the inner loop, this loop will execute completely. How much time we have to execute this loop? 3 times, because the range here is 3 starting from 0. So the initial value of j is 0 and the condition is j is less than 3. So here the condition is true. Once the condition in the outer loop becomes true, we have to execute the inner loop. Again, the condition here is true, so we have to execute this statement which is inside the body of inner loop as well as out. What will happen? What will happen here? Print is a built-in function which will display the value, the current value of I followed by the current value of j. So the current value of I is 0, current value of j is also 0. Once this statement is executed, the control will transfer back the inner loop. Okay, we do not have to move to the outer loop. First we have to back to the inner loop. What will happen now? Increment the value of j by 1 in the for loop. The previous value of j was 0. The new value is 1. Check the condition. J is less than 3. There is 1 is less than 3. Yes, condition is true. Come here and display the current value of I. J. Current value of I is same because we do not have changed it yet, but the current value is 1. After execution of this statement, go back to the inner loop, increment the value of j by 1, check the condition. Now the value is 2. 2 is less than 3. Yes, condition is true. Come here and execute the statement again. What will happen now? It will display the current value of I, which is 0, and the current value of j, which is 2. After execution of this statement, go back to the inner loop, increment the value of j by 1 and check the condition. 3 is less than 3? No. Condition is false. Once the condition is false, this statement will not be executed. But from here, the control will transfer back to the outer loop. Okay, you have multiple loops. Here, we have to do the same thing. The previous value 5 was 1. We have to increment it by 1. So the new value is 1. Check the condition. 1 is less than 4. Yes, the condition is true. Once the condition becomes true, we have to execute this loop. How much times? Now repeat it again. Current value of j is 0. Check the condition. 0 is less than 3. Yes, condition is true now. So we have to execute this loop again and the output is going to be like this. Now the current value of I is 1. Okay, it will display 1, and remember the current value of j is 0. Is 0. Again, let me revise. After the execution of the print statement, the control will transfer to the inner loop. So here we have to increment the value of j by 1. The previous value of j was 0. Now become 1. Check the condition. 1 is less than 3. Yes, condition is true. Print the statement. Print here and come here and print the value of I and j. So the value of I is same, that is 1, but the value of j is now 1. And then so on. So it will display the rest of the values. So let us give it a run. Let's save the code. See, this is actually the first 0 represent the value of the outer loop and the inner loop. Outer loop, inner loop. So you see, for one value of outer loop, we actually completely execute the inner loop. One value of the outer loop, we actually completely execute the inner loop, and so this is how actually the nested loop works. Now the same program, but now by using the while loop. In this program, we want to display the same output but by using while loop instead of for loop. In the previous program we used for loop. In this program we are using the while loop. So as you know that in case of while loop we have to mention explicitly the variable and its initial value. So I will start from 0. How much time we want this loop to be executed? 4 times. And then again inner loop, variable here is j, initial value is 0, and how much time we want to execute this loop? 3 times. Print is actually inside the body of the inner as well as the outer for loop, a while loop, and we want to display the current value of I and the current value of j as we saw in the previous case. After that, remember, when you are dealing with the while loop, you have to increment or decrement the value of the loop variable. So here what I'm doing, I'm actually adding 1 to the previous value of j, and here I'm adding the value 1 to the previous value I. Both these are loop variable. J is the loop variable of the inner loop while I is the loop variable of the outer loop. If you run this program, you will see the same output, but we achieve this output with the help of nested while loop. Okay guys, we have seen for inside for loop, we have seen while inside while loop, but that is not the only case. In case of nested loop, it is possible that you can nest a loop, a while loop inside for, or you can nest a for loop inside the while loop. In other words, you can use a while loop inside the body for loop, or you can use the for loop inside the body of while loop. In this case, I am using a while loop inside the body of the for loop, and the concept is same. The value here is 4, the value here is 3. You can use while loop here and for loop here as well. That is up to you. You run this program, you will see the same output. See, we are actually getting the same output here. So from these 3 programs, I want to explain that you can do the same thing by using nested for loop, or by using while loop, or by using a mixture of the both. Okay, those students who have attended the theoretical class of week 9, you will be familiar with this program. We want a 24-hour clock. Remember, nested for loop, 3 loops, 1 loop to represent hours, second loop to represent minutes, and the third loop to represent seconds. We have a total of 24 hours, we have a total of 60 minutes in each hour, and we have a total of 60 seconds in each minute. And we want to display the current value of hour, minutes, and seconds. So this is a loop which will actually display the 24 hours and 60 seconds in each hour and 60 60 minutes in each hour and 60 seconds in each. This is a very beautiful program. If you run this program, the output is going to be, see, it's a clock and it starts from here. So at the beginning, the value of hour is 0, the value of minute is 0, and the value of second is 0. Because hour will start from 0, minutes will start by default from 0, second will start by default from 0. So 0, 0, 0. And then this is the innermost loop. First, we have to complete the execution of the innermost loop for one value of the inner loop, that is 0. So, and similarly, for one value of the hour, we have to completely execute this inner loop. Things is like this: 0, 0, and 0. And then in the next iteration, these two values will remain the same, but this value will change to 1. And then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5, then 6. How many seconds we have? 60. Starting from 0, it means 59. So after 59, after this statement, you will see that now the value minute has changed. In after passing of 60 seconds, I have to change a minute. After complete execution of this loop, you have to go back to the inner loop here and increment the value of minute. So the previous value of minute was 0, the new value is 1. And then after 60 iterations again, the value will change to, when we have to change this 0, which represent the hour, actually we have to change it after 60 minutes. That is going to be after 60 minutes. We are actually in the first hour, and then after 59 minutes, you see here 59 seconds mean 59 seconds, 59 minutes mean completion of hour. Here we have 1 hour 0 minute 0 second, and then it will repeat the execution seconds, and then the minutes, and then again it will move to the second hour, and so on. This loop will function, this program will function until we get full 20 hours, full 60 minutes. So this is a program nested by using nested loop to display the 24-hour clocks. Okay, in the theory I talked about different applications of the nested loop. One of the application area is to print different patterns, different shapes, say. So by using this program, I want to display a multiplication table. Sorry, before going to display the different shapes, let us see the multiplication table. We talked about the multiplication table in the theory class as well. Here we will only see the output of this program. But let me elaborate a bit this program. We have two while loops, we have two variables. The value of both, the initial value of both the variable is 1. It means the loop will start from 1 and it will work until 10. However, that is the range starting from 1 till 10. And for every value of the I, the j will execute it 10 times. And what is happening here? I want to multiply I by j. I multiplied by j is equal to I by j. This is actually a variable. It will display the current value of I, for example 1. This is a string constant. This will be displayed as it is. Static is for multiplication. And this is again, it will display the current value of j. So the current value of j, for example, is 1. And this is again string constant. You can enclose string constant in a single quotation as well as in a double quotation, up to you. But some version, they will accept only single, and some version will accept only double quotation, but some will accept both the formats. The actual thing is happening here. Here we have a multiplication operator. Remember arithmetic operators? So this is a arithmetic operator which will multiply the current value of I with the current value of j, and the result will be displayed to the user. So let us give this program a run. You see, it displayed tables. How much tables? Table of 1. This is actually the outer loop. This one is actually the outer loop, and these are the inner loop. And then the outer loop value is 2, and the outer loop value is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It will display the first 10 natural number multiplication table. Okay, okay guys, now moving toward the application area to display different shapes or different patterns. Here is our first program. I want to display uh, these this shape. Okay, uh, one clarification. I want to display this pattern. Okay, but I want them to be comments. I have put asterisk. I have put a hash symbol in front of each line, but the actual output is static. So remember, for solving such problem, you have to think on the logic. For example, here we have a total number of 8 rows and a total number of 6 columns. So total number of rows are 8, total number of columns are 6. What's happening here, that in each line I am printing 6 different characters, and the character is static. And remember, it is a parameter that we actually provide to the print function. Its function is to be on the same line. After printing this static, do not move the next line. If you remove this parameter from here, it will display the static, okay, but after displaying this static, it will move the cursor to the next line like this, and then it will display the next static, and so on. But I want them to be displayed on the same line, so for that I have to write this parameter and the value here is actually um, like, if you put a space here, it will give a space. Let me show it practically, make thing more clear. So if you run this program, the output is going to be exactly the same thing required. But if you place space here, now you will see the output will be different. See, now we have a space between between the two between the two static. If you put another space, more spaces, then the output, it will be reflected on the output as well. So be careful. It is very useful parameter. Okay. Okay, let us move to the next programming pattern that we want to display it by using nested loop. This is our program number 7 of this week. Again, this is comment. The actual required output is like this. So again, think on the pattern. Number of rows are 8. The value of r here is 8, starting from 0. Okay, at every column, actually I have the same columns, but at every column I am actually displaying, for example, this is our row number 0. In the theory class, I have explained this program. So this is row 0. How many steric do we have on row 0? We 1, which means 0 plus 1 plus 1 is equal. Now come here. This is row um, was row 0, is row 1. How many steric do I have here? 2, which mean 1 is equal. What's happening here? Think on the logic. I am adding a constant 1 with a value, and that value is the value of the number of the row, and the number of row is represented by r. I am adding 1 with the value, with the current value of r. So if the current value of r is 0, the output is 1, and then I am displaying those much static. It will display 1 static. In this case, it will display 2 static. Means this loop will execute 3 times, it 4 times, 5, 6, 7, and 8 times. If you want to see the dry run, please refer to the theory week of, of nested loop. That is week number 9. So if you run this program, you will see exactly the same output. Okay, I need to program here. This is the output, required output or pattern or shape. Okay, let us move to the next program, program number 8. Now, we have a different pattern. Here, what we see is actually a space. Here we have a single space. Here we have double space. Here we have triple space. Here we have space. Here we have 5 spaces, which means that again consider the row. So this is row 0. And how many spaces do we have here? 0. This is row number 1. How many spaces do we have here? 1 space. And this is row, how many spaces? 2. So it means that the number of spaces is actually linked with the number of row. So here, things is like this. If row is 0, for example, the first iteration, then the value here, you see, the range is actually a variable r. So the current value of r is 0. So the value here is like this, 0. So check the condition. The initial value of c is 0. Check the condition. 0 is less than 0. No, condition is false. Once the condition is false, this statement will not be executed. Means the empty space will not be created. But after checking this condition, we have to come to this statement because this is also part of the outer loops. Everything inside the outer loop will be executed for every value of r. What will happen? It will display a asterisk. So the output is this. It will display a asterisk, and that's it. After execution of this statement, come back to the outer loop, increment the value of r by 1. Now the value is 1. Check the condition. Was it less than 6? Yes, condition is true. Come to the inner loop. What will happen here? Now, actually, we have r here. So the current value of r is 1. The value here is going to be 1 now. It's like this. Okay? I have replaced r with the current value of r, that is 1, to make things simple. Check the condition. 1 is less than 1. Sorry, the current value of c is 0. Check the condition. 0 is less than 1. That is actually the range. Yes, condition is true. Once the condition is true, the statement will be executed. What's happening in this statement? It's very simple. First, print an empty space. Okay, so the cursor is here. Why? Here we know that we have a hidden backslash here. So the cursor is here. Put an empty space. Okay, I have put an empty space. And after that, be on the same line. Do not line. And is a parameter, remember? I will not talk about it. Okay, after execution of the statement, go back to the inner loop. Increment the value of c1. Now the new value of c is 1. 1 is less than 1. No. Condition is false. This statement will not be executed. Come here and display asterisk. So after the empty space, I have to display asterisk. And that's it. After execution of the statement, go back to the outer loop. Increment the value of 1, the value of r by 1, that is 2. Now the value of the range here will become so on. So once you complete the try run, see that the output like this. See, that is the required output. Okay, finally we have another pattern, and I will left it to think on the program logic and solve it in nested loop. You have display this pattern or this shape. Here, let, let me give you some hints. The program is also there, by the way. You can check. First, think on the number of rows. So one thing is clear, that the number of row is 5. Now think, how many columns do we? The number of columns are. Okay, second thing become clear. Number of columns represented by j is also 5. Execution or iteration number 2, iteration number 3, and iteration, sorry, starting from 0. This is iteration 0. You need to understand the problem in order to solve it, remember? So this, what I'm doing, I'm trying to understand the problem. This is iteration 0, this is iteration 1, iteration 2, iteration 3, and iteration 4. Iteration 1, 2, and 3 are the same, while iteration 0 and iteration 4 are the same. So you need an if condition. Check whether it is iteration 0 or iteration 4. You need a different code for iteration 0 and iteration 4. So this is what is happening here. If the iteration is 0 or if the iteration is 4. And again, both the iteration for the row or iteration for the column. Iteration for the row is represented by I, iteration for the column is represented by j. So if any of this condition is true, either it is first row, either it is first column, either it is fourth row, either it is fourth column. In any of this case, you have to print a static and then you have to be on the same line. Okay. And how much time you have to print this static? 5 times, starting from 0. So this will actually display static, 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 static. This is for iteration 0 and 4. But for the rest of the iteration 1, 2, 3, you have to come to the else. Okay. In this case, you have to print a single static and followed by empty spaces, which is here. If I will left the rest of execution, understand the problem, the code is there. The code will exactly do what is required. It will display, let me show you. It will display the same output like this. Okay, but how it works, you have to understand. And the whole logic is, because you are already familiar with the nested for loop, what is extra for you to put your efforts is the if else statement. Think on it and then you will find the answer how the code is executed and how the required pattern is printed. Thank you so much for watching the video. If you do not have subscribed to the channel yet, please do subscribe and leave your comments. Thank you so much.